Good morning, this is Laurie of Laurie's Heirloom Sewing. I really wanted to work on the American Tradition McCall's Crafts table runner. However, until I locate and purchase and add a quarter ruler, this particular pattern is not going to work for me. Paper piecing is pretty much based off of that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance for every single solitary one of these stitches. And for this to be absolutely perfect, that little ruler is almost an absolute requirement. So my plan is to just go ahead and be aware that that's a requirement, and I'll have to set this project aside for future, for future project use. It's not like it's going to go anywhere. And I have piece 8. And also, having already measured the space on the table that I would want this table runner for, I know this does not appeal to me. This drape right here on this round table. I have a very long, oblong table, but I also don't want my table runner to go all the way to the end of each of the oval points. So for me, based on the measurement that I made, I'm only going to make 3 of these blocks, and that will go right in the middle of my table. And then it's just kind of the space where the candelabra goes, or the salt and pepper and the butter, just right there in the center of my dining room table. The draping over business isn't something that I'm all that fond of. So I'm going to hang on to this. The other thing that you really kind of need is some kind of cardstock to fold that pattern piece back on as you work your way around. And of course you have to have Scotch tape in case you make a mistake. You don't want to tear up your pattern piece if you've got to remove stitches. And that Scotch tape, magic tape, will help. You can just put it right on the pattern piece, and then you can pick your stitches, and it should all hold together pretty well. So yesterday I went through and I kind of separated these out in kind of the colorway that I thought would work the best for me. And knowing that I don't need to do but 3, and of course between now and when I finally get that ruler, I could have a whole different idea for this particular block. I don't, at this point, I don't know. What I do know is that I have this wonderful Jellyroll. I swear I cannot remember the name. I have to keep looking at the Blue Ridge Mountain. It's insane. Having grown up on the East Coast, basically in the Blue Ridge Mountains, you would think that would just stick in my head. That's alarming me. By connecting threads, and I like the prints. I like the colors that have been chosen for this whole Jellyroll. I am going to use this to go ahead and create just a different table runner. This particular width is the ideal for me. It's 2.5 inches. right on 2.5 inches, which gives you that 1/4 inch on one side, the 1/4 inch on the other side. And you can do so much with strip piecing. It's at this point based on color. Alright, I chose these colors because they are, for me, fall colors. And they are the colors that I am least likely to use when I'm doing the log cabin pattern. I'd rather use the blues and the greens. I'm going to pick up this one and flip it over and stitch these two together, and then these two together, these two together, these two together. But if I leave this here, then I won't get confused about what's supposed to be next. And then this is Warm and Natural. This is the batting that I'm going to use. Let's go ahead and take a look and see if we have enough. Okay, so actually it looks like probably about half of this, because this is folded in half this way, would be the appropriate amount for what I have here. And that works really well for me. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to keep this off to the side here. Okay, so I need to set up my machine, get it clean, load up some thread, and then I'm going to start stitching. I'll show you the first few, the first one or two, as I go. The main thing that I try to do in a situation like this is just make sure that I'm keeping them in the order that I want. I don't want to get confused and then have to either remove stitches, because that will definitely stretch out each one of your strips. The other thing that I try to remember to do, I have both of the selvage edges down here on this end, and I'm going to start stitching from the top where there aren't selvage edges. But when I do the next one, I will have the third in place right here, number 3, and I'm going to stitch that one the opposite direction, and then this one this way, etc., all the way across, so that I'm not getting that push going in one direction or the other direction. It will be equally distributed through the entire set of strips. So that is where I am. I just need to get my iron heating up and my sewing machine cleaned and ready to go. And then, like I said, I'll show you the first maybe 3. Alright, so I have the first 2 stitched together. I'm going to remove the leader. Okay, so I have the leader set. Actually, it's going to have to run this way. Okay, and then this piece I'm going to switch. So the selvage edge will be on the end where these 2 do not have a selvage, and the cut edge will be on the opposite end with that selvage. Okay, I do want to show you, I have a spot where my stitches really wobbled off of that 1/4 inch. I turned my head to look at the camera to see if I was actually in frame, and when I did, this right here happened. So I need to remove these to get this 1/4 inch straightened out. And the way I do that is I will pop out one stitch over here on this side of it. I'm going to travel over to about here and remove one stitch, and I just kind of push my seam ripper underneath that thread like so, and then about every 5 to 7 stitches I'm going to do the same thing just between the initial 2. Okay, like so, and then turn it around and you'll be able to kind of pull. There we go. Pull out the stitches that you want to, get rid of, like so. I don't want to open this up and remove these stitches from between the seam. It will stretch this out, and I'm doing everything I can barring making mistakes like this, to keep everything pretty well flat and not stretched. So if I can just leave my fabric, you know, just like it is, pull out these remaining stitches in the area that has been bordered by a removed stitch. I have some stitching here. I can just pull, gently remove, and then put this back through the sewing machine, just like this. Oh, there's a little bit of some stitching here I need to remove. And this is really just a visual. You'll be able to see it. I don't know if you can on camera here, but I finally have met up with the correct stitching right here. And when I take this over to the ironing board, it will help kind of flatten this out. So now I can press this down like I did before. And I will go iron it with some heat. And then I'm going to just keep adding my strip pieces. Okay, so that is the order that I'm stitching. This is next, and I'm just going to continue all the way across. I have stitched up to the middle here. I'm about to put the center piece on. And what happens next after this is that you, or at least for me, I stop stitching on this one and I begin stitching on the second set. And then I join those together instead of trying to work on one big huge piece. Okay, now I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling, I'm just using my hands to press this down and then flip it over and use my fingertips to just press open the seam right here. I'm not pulling, not directionally pulling, I'm just opening the seam allowances up and pushing with my fingertips, and then take it to the iron, flip it over, press, and then that one is completed up to that point. One more thing before I forget, you want to make sure when you start on that second side that you either start from the center or you start from the end, and make sure that when you stitch this, you're stitching it so that your outside color is correctly placed. Alright, so I am about to stitch the last free strip down onto the second set, and then we will be adding the first set. So let's just go ahead and get that going. And remember, I'm not pushing, I'm just pressing with my fingers. Okay, so I forgot to turn the camera back on. Finished up this seam right here. Put this on, this piece right here. Stitched it right along this seam. So that we now have the full piece is completed. The only thing I was talking about before I realized that the camera wasn't on was that jelly rolls tend to be very linty. There's a lot of fabric fiber flying around. Every time I open one, I end up losing my voice. It's just an amazing amount of lint. So if you're sensitive to that, it is something to be aware of. I wouldn't say don't try to use one, just be aware that you might have an allergic reaction due to the lint flying around in the air, and it really does. I've tried a couple things, like I'll open them outside sometimes. I did not do that this time because it was pouring down rain when I got it. That was at the beginning of the video, I believe. Okay, guys, I'm using my other camera, so I'm recording this on my phone. I ordered this a couple days ago for working on the table runner for the McCall's American Tradition pattern, and I cannot believe it is here. I mean, this is the only thing it could be. So you're going to see it with me from my phone, and it's probably backwards. I don't know that it's, that it's actually going to work, but I'm going to try. So here we go. Oh, plastic, plastic, plastic. So this is a Connecting Threads jelly roll. This is the Blue Ridge Mountain variety, I guess. I don't know what to call it, but we're going to take a quick look. I fell in love. They had like 5 or 6 sets, and I fell in love with all of them. But this one just seemed to have the right colorway. I'm very sensitive to the fabric fiber that just seems to accompany a jelly roll. Very sensitive. So if you have allergies, or if fabric fiber is like a respiratory trigger for you, just be aware that it could be a problem. Even if you open this outside, you may need to have somebody shake, just take the whole roll and just shake it off, and you'll see it. It'll just like a cloud of snow flying off. But anyway, and then every time I work with one, as I flip it over and flip it over and flip it over, I just become more and more and more covered in lint. So I honestly, just for your own well-being, I just want you to be aware of that. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go press this seam right here, and then when I come back, we're going to decide, do I have fabric for the back or don't I? I'm not sure yet. Okay, so what I plan to do next is fold this in half. One thing I want to point out is if you're more about apparel stitching, but you love the idea of a strip set like this Jellyroll, these are so popular right now. I'm actually kind of surprised, but if you turn this way and then trace out, say, a little shirt pattern or something, having these stripes in this manner seems to be just all the rage on some of the channels out there. So it's something to think about. You can also use these to make tote bags, library bags, you know, even a purse. There are some pretty well-known brand name type pieces like this that are turned into just absolutely amazing quilted little bags of all description, like even for your sunglasses, your glasses, your pencils, your makeup, you know, a purse, whatever. A strip set will, you know, really be a good thing to use for an awful lot of that type of sewing. And they're so cute. If you put a pocket or something on the front, you know, like an offset little zipper pocket across the front at an angle, that just even adds more charm. So it's something to consider. Alright, so I'm going to line up this right here, I need to get that even, with one of the marks on my cutting mat. This probably isn't going to be perfect, but I don't worry about perfection. There's a certain amount of, I need to be having a good time, I need to be enjoying what I'm doing in my sewing. If I get frustrated, if I can't figure something out, if it's not working for me, if I'm not enjoying it, then I just feel like there's just something wrong with the project. So I will build in some fun for myself, even at the expense of having an absolutely perfect project, because that's not important to me. Okay, so now I'm taking my clear Omni Grid. This is a 3x17. I'm going to line it up on one of the vertical marks, like so, and I'm going to trim like that, and then I'm going to flip this over, check this side, make sure that I got it, and I did. Okay, line it up along the horizontal line again. Okay. And if you're having trouble remembering horizontal and vertical, the horizon is like this. The sun sets this way. So if you're looking out across the horizon, you're looking this way. Vertical is straight up and down. So horizon, horizontal, and then vertical is obviously the other direction. So that might help you if studying the two is a little bit complicated. That can happen sometimes. Okay, and now I'm just going to trim off the second side like so. Flip it over and check for Okay, perfect. Everything is where it's supposed to be. Alright, so the next step here is I have this lovely seersucker that I purchased, and I think I am going to use it to create the backing for this project. If I have stitched, and I've stitched right here, and this is all to the outside, then the outside of my fabric and the outside of my strip set will be facing outside with this in the middle. So it's outside fabric face up, back of the project fabric, right sides together with this piece. So these two are right sides together. And then your Warm and Natural or whatever batting you're using does not have a right or wrong side in this basic capacities. Okay, so I have returned. There were several things I needed to take care of. But now that I'm back, I'm going to use some spray bond or spray in bond basting adhesive, temporary bond. This is the first time I've ever used this particular product, and I want to give it a try. So as you can see, I just kind of have my fabric here, and I'm just gonna pretty much just center this piece of Warm and Natural on this piece of fabric. The nice thing about a seersucker is that you have lines that can kind of guide you. So the way that I do this generally is I will fold it in half this way. I give this a good spray or shake. I don't really want to spray it on the fabric. I want to spray it on the Warm and Natural. I think I said Heat and Bond. The Warm and Natural is what I put the spray on. Now I'm going to use this hand and just kind of press it down. And now I'm going to fold it back on itself to where I feel resistance, and that's where that glue is from the first spray. So I'm going to spray again. Now I can tell you that I don't smell anything. It doesn't smell like a harsh chemical. I'm not having any issues whatsoever. So basically the instructions are spray, press it down, and sew. So I'm using safety pins to pin these 3 layers together. I'm going into the seam allowance because I don't want to create a lasting hole in my fabric. In other words, I don't want to put safety pins in the visible pieces of this fabric. Because I'm going into the center section, just to kind of stay away from my machine needle, you know, it's just better to use a safety pin. I don't want to stab myself. Everybody knows how I feel about that. And I also I feel like they're just easier to you know, you can feel them. You know where they are. There's no chance that you're going to accidentally flip this to the, you know, to the right side and leave a pin in there. That would be really hard to remove once you've stitched it all together. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feel like I need one here. And I'm using bigger safety pins, not little small ones. Okay. Maybe one up there too. About right there. Okay. All right. And I'm actually drawing an actual thick dash mark. Otherwise I might miss it. So right there. So if you have clover clips, you know, that could also be a, you know, a little tip. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to stop when I get to these. And I can get my hand in there. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead then and I'll start here, work my way around, and I'll stop here. And then when I come back, we will turn this to the right sides and see what that looks like. Alright, so we have had all of the sides stitched up with the exception of the opening that we left here. So I'm going to remove the safety pins now. Alright, so we'll flip this around. This in like that so that everything looks closed off. And then when I come back, we're going to stitch along these seam lines just all the way across. See you in a minute. I am back. I have pressed. This opening needs to be stitched closed. I did want to add that if you were into an applique look on top, like a layer of applique, say a sunflower or you know, an acorn, a pumpkin, if there was some type of an applique that you wanted to do on top of your strip piecing like this, you would have wanted to do that before you make your quilt sandwich, and you would do that on this top. Then you would put all the pieces together. You could also do that on the reverse. You could have some type of little applique on this side to, you know, give it a little bit different look if you wanted to flip it over for a different occasion. but I chose not to. I'm working on so many projects right now, especially with the hand stitching, that I thought, you know, I just kind of want to do this. And I love these colors, and I feel like they're going to look really pretty with my tablecloth that I made. So I didn't really think adding a lot of other colors to this was something I wanted to do. Now there is another thing you could do prior to putting it together, and that is you could do some embroidery in your light colors. So you could have like little flowers embroidered in these, or you know, just even some type of floss embroidery, or you could do little pumpkins or candy corn, or you know, something seasonal. You could put some, you know, little embroidered leaves, something like that, to give it that personal touch. Okay, so now I'm going to push up to about a 3 on my stitch length, and I think I'm going to start right in the middle and do from the middle out, and then turn it and do from the middle out. Okay guys, so I have all of these lines that are currently horizontal, that are running this way. Those are stitched, but it caused a great deal of wobbliness on these edges. So because I am a student of MIW, Make It Work, I am going to cut these off. I have quilting lines drawn with my friction pen. I'm cutting off a 1/2 inch on each of these 2 long sides. I feel like that will let some of this ease out. I may end up doing a border using some of the Seersucker. We'll see what happens. Alright, so next I'm just going to leave it as it stands. I'm not going to finish up this part yet, and I'm going to go ahead and do these lines that I've drawn on my sewing machine as a quilting line. So this is how it looks from the front, or the pretty side, I guess we'll say. I've got to press the friction pen ink, the heat erase ink out, but it turned out pretty good. And this is the other side with our seersucker. And now that I've cut off the wobbly ends that I'll show you, they were they were really, oh, it was just not pretty at all. And sometimes these things happen. It may not be common among you know, a lot of quilters, but I'm not a quilter. So for me, this really isn't about the quilting. It's just about making something that I know that I can probably put together. And at this phase of this particular project, if you wanted to, you know, you could fold it like this, stitch down this side, stitch down this side, turn it, make some boxed corners, turn it out, and you'd have, you know, a bag. You could just take some straps, put straps on it, and you have a tote bag. So this is the kind of thing that I like to make because it is so user-friendly. You can come up with so many different things to do with this. But I need a tabletopper, and I wanted one in these colors to look pretty on my table for fall. So this is the piece of seersucker that I have left, and I think, yeah, this is almost exactly the length that I need to make sort of a border for it. So I'm going to cut strips of this. I want to see, yeah, going in that direction. Okay, here's one. Yeah, I think I'm good. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Alright, my next step here, I'm going to go ahead and press this to get the ink off while I'm thinking about it. And we'll start sewing when I come back. I hope everybody had a wonderful Monday and that your week will be really good. If you have questions, please drop a comment below. I'm going to try to link the materials for this in the description box below, and if I don't, I'll try to remember to pop up on the screen as the video is rolling where these items all came from. But make sure you ask if you have a question about that. In the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.